The wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I was standing in the bridal suite of the Grand Celestial Resort, staring at my reflection in a floor-length mirror, wearing a Vera Wong gown that weighed 12 pounds and cost more than my first car, when my phone buzzed with a text that ended everything. It was from Julian, my fiancé, the man I was supposed to marry in 47 minutes. Asterisk, I can't do this. Chloe and I are together. We've been together for 2 years. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Don't make a scene. J'y astérisque. Chloe to my stepsister, the woman my father had brought into our family when he remarried 8 years ago. The woman who had spent every holiday, every birthday, every family dinner pretending to be my friend while she was sleeping with the man I was supposed to marry. I read the text 3 times. Then I set down my phone, walked to the window, and looked out at the beach where 300 guests were seated in neat white rows, waiting for a ceremony that would never happen. My father was in the front row, beaming. My stepmother was beside him, adjusting her hat. My stepsister, Chloe, was conspicuously absent, supposedly because she was running late. But now I understood why. She was with Julian, somewhere, probably laughing. My maid of honor, a childhood friend named Lena who had flown in from London, was standing behind me. Cass, what is it? You look like you've seen a ghost. Julian's not coming, I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. He's with Chloe. They've been together for 2 years. He just told me. Lena's face went white. No. No, that's not. He wouldn't. Chloe, your stepsister? Yes, my stepsister. Oh my God. Cass, I'm so sorry. What do you want to do? Do you want me to tell the guests? Do you want to leave? We can leave right now. I'll call a car. No. I turned from the window. I'm not leaving. And I'm not going to let them win. Then what? I'm going to walk down that aisle. And I'm going to get married today. Not to Julian. To someone else. Lena stared at me. To someone else? Cass, you can't just... There's no one else. The groom's side is full of Julian's family and business associates. Who are you going to marry? I didn't answer, because I didn't know yet. But I knew one thing. I would rather marry a stranger than let Julian Ashford and Chloe Vance humiliate me in front of 300 people. The bridal suite door opened. My wedding planner, a nervous woman named Patricia, poked her head in. Miss Vance, it's time. The processional is about to start. Tell them I need 5 more minutes, I said. There's been a slight change of plans. Patricia's eyes widened, but she nodded and retreated. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts. There had to be anyone. A friend, an acquaintance, a stranger who would agree to a marriage of convenience just to save me from this nightmare. And then I saw a name I had never called. A name that had been added to my contacts 3 years ago, after a charity gala where I had briefly met the most intimidating man I had ever encountered. Adrian Sterling. Billionaire, recluse, the CEO of Sterling Global, the largest investment conglomerate in the world. Julian's uncle by marriage, his late mother's younger brother, who had severed ties with the family decades ago and had built his empire in solitude. Julian had told me once that Adrian refused to attend family events, refused to take calls, and refused to acknowledge Julian's existence. He was the black sheep, the outcast, the one member of the Sterling dynasty who had rejected everything the family stood for. I had met him exactly once at the Sterling Foundation Gala 3 years ago. Julian had been trying to get a meeting with him for months. Adrian had ignored every request, but he had spoken to me. For 10 minutes, I in a corner of the ballroom, away from the cameras. He had asked me about my work. I was an architect specializing in sustainable design, and I had told him about my dream of building affordable housing out of recycled materials. He had listened. He had nodded, and then he had said, "If you ever need anything, call me." I had never called, until now. My hands were shaking as I pressed the number. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Miss Vance. The voice was deep, unhurried, utterly unsurprised. I've been expecting your call. You've been what? How? I have sources. Julian Ashford has been making a fool of himself in very predictable ways. I assume he's run off with your stepsister, and you're calling to ask for my help. I swallowed. Yes, he left me at the altar. The wedding is in 5 minutes. I need a groom. Yes, I know. There was a pause. I'm already at the resort. I arrived this morning that I wanted to see what my nephew is planning. IT seems he's even more spineless than I thought. I'll be there in 3 minutes. Don't walk down the aisle until I arrive. The line went dead. I stared at my phone. Lena was staring at me. Who was that? Adrian Sterling, Julian's uncle. He's going to marry me. Adrian Sterling? The billionaire? The one who hasn't been seen in public in 5 years? Cass, what the hell is happening? I don't know, I said, but I think my life just changed. The wedding march began. 300 guests rose to their feet. My father, still beaming, still unaware that his stepdaughter had run off with my fiancé, offered me his arm. I took it. We walked down the aisle together, my cathedral-length train sweeping behind me, my face hidden behind a veil of ivory tulle. The altar was at the end of a white sand aisle, framed by arches of white roses and peonies. The officiant was waiting. The bridesmaids and groomsmen were in position. And standing where Julian should have been, looking like he had just stepped out of a magazine cover, was Adrian Sterling. He was tall, silver-haired, with the quiet intensity of someone who had spent his life building things that lasted. He was wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, and when he turned to face me, his eyes were the color of winter steel. He was 53 years old. I was 28. He was Julian's uncle, and he was about to become my husband. My father stopped walking. Who is that? He hissed. Where's Julian? Julian is with Chloe, I said quietly. They've been having an affair for 2 years. They're probably together right now, laughing at me. Adrian Sterling is going to marry me instead. Adrian Sterling? The billionaire? The one who, Cass, what have you done? I've saved myself. I released my father's arm, walked the final steps to the altar alone, and took Adrian's hand. His grip was warm and steady. You came, I whispered. I said I would. His voice was low. Are you ready for this? It's not too late to walk away. I'm not walking away. I've been walking away from things my whole life. Not today. The officiant cleared his throat. He was clearly flustered, but Adrian had apparently spoken to him before I arrived. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Cassandra Vance and Adrian Sterling. Marriage is a sacred covenant. The ceremony passed in a blur. I said my vows. Adrian said his. His voice was steady and deep, and when he slid the ring onto my finger, a ring he had produced from his pocket, a ring that must have cost more than the entire wedding, his eyes never left mine. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Adrian lifted my veil. His face was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes. Curiosity, perhaps, or the first stirring of something deeper. He leaned down and kissed me, a brief, chaste brush of his lips against mine. The audience was completely silent. Then, from somewhere in the back, someone started clapping, then another person. Then the entire beach was applauding, and I was walking back down the aisle on the arm of a man I barely knew, while my father stood frozen at the altar and my stepmother's face turned the color of old paper. We reached the end of the aisle. Adrian leaned close. There's a helicopter waiting. We're leaving. I'll explain everything on the way. On the way to where? To the life you should have had all along. The helicopter lifted off from the resort's landing pad and banked north toward the mountains. I sat in the passenger seat, still in my wedding dress, staring at the man who had just become my husband. You said you'd explain, I said. Please, start explaining. Adrian nodded. Julian Ashford has been a problem for a long time. He's not just a cheating fiancé. He's a criminal. He's been embezzling from Sterling Global for years, using his family connections to cover his tracks. MY investigators have been building a case against him for 18 months. And Chloe, my stepsister, Chloe Vance is his accomplice. She's been feeding him information about your family, financial details, investment strategies, vulnerabilities in your father's business. They've been planning to drain your family's resources and disappear together. I felt the blood drain from my face. My father's business. Vance Architecture. They were going to destroy my father's company. They were going to use it as a shell for money laundering. Your father would have been implicated. He would have gone to prison. Chloe was perfectly positioned to make that happen. She had access to everything. And you knew about this? You knew, and you didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone because I needed proof. I've had investigators watching Julian for months. They tracked his communications, his meetings with Chloe, his financial transactions. But I needed a way to expose him without giving him time to destroy evidence. Your wedding gave me that opportunity. How? Julian didn't just leave you at the altar. He also emptied your joint accounts this morning. Every dollar you had saved together. Gone. He was planning to flee the country with Chloe tonight. But I froze the accounts before he could transfer the money offshore. He's trapped. And when he returns to the resort to try to salvage his reputation, he'll be arrested. I stared at him. You used my wedding as a trap. I used your wedding to stop a criminal. There's a difference. I also used it to protect you. If Julian had succeeded, if he had drained your accounts and fled, you would have been left with nothing. No money and oh recourse. And oh, justice, that I made sure that didn't happen. So marrying me, that was just part of the plan? A strategic move. Adrian was quiet for a moment. No, he said finally. Marrying you was not part of the plan. I had intended to expose Julian quietly, without involving you directly. But when you called me this morning, when I heard your voice, steady and determined, even after everything he had done, I realized I didn't want to be on the sidelines. I wanted to stand beside you. I wanted to be the one who caught you when you fell. You barely know me. I know more than you think. I've been following your career for years. Your designs are brilliant. Your commitment to sustainability is genuine. And at the Sterling Foundation Gala 3 years ago, you were the only person in the room who wasn't trying to impress me. You were just yourself. I never forgot that. I looked at him for a long moment. His face was still unreadable, but there was something underneath, a vulnerability I hadn't noticed before. So, what happens now? Do we get an annulment? Pretend this never happened. That's up to you. I meant what I said in my vows that I will honor and protect you for as long as you let me. If you want an annulment, I'll arrange it. If you want to see where this goes, he met my eyes. I would like that very much. I thought about Julian, about Chloe, about the years of lies and manipulation, the family dinners where my stepsister had smiled and pretended to love me while she planned my destruction. I thought about my father, still at the resort, probably still trying to process what had happened. I thought about the life I had almost been trapped in, a life with a man who had never loved me, who had only seen me as a means to an end. And then I thought about Adrian, the way he had shown up, the way he had caught me, the way he was looking at me now, patient and steady, asking for nothing but offering everything. I don't want an annulment, I said. I want to see where this goes. Adrian smiled, the first genuine smile I had ever seen on his face. Then let's find out. The helicopter landed at a private estate in the mountains, a sprawling property of stone and glass perched on the edge of a cliff overlooking the sea. Adrian led me inside, where a staff of attendants was waiting. Within hours, I had changed out of my wedding dress and into comfortable clothes. Adrian made calls to his legal team, coordinating the final stages of Julian's takedown. The arrest happened that evening. Julian and Chloe were apprehended at a private airstrip, attempting to board a plane to a country with no extradition treaty. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, emails, witness testimony. Julian was charged with embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. Chloe was charged as an accessory. Their bail was denied. They would await trial in federal custody. My father called me that night, his voice broken. Cass, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know what Chloe was doing. I didn't know what Julian was. I should have protected you. You didn't know because you didn't want to know, I said quietly. You wanted Chloe to be perfect. You wanted to believe that your new family was flawless. And you ignored everything that didn't fit that picture, including me. That's not fair. It is fair, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm done trying to earn your approval. I'm done competing with Chloe for a place in a family that never really wanted me to have my own family now. My own future. Is it true? You married Adrian Sterling. Yes. And he's been more loyal to me in one day than Julian ever was in 4 years. My father was silent for a long moment. I'd like to meet him. Properly, I mean. When you're ready. Maybe. When I'm ready. I hung up and walked out onto the terrace, where Adrian was waiting. The sun was setting over the sea, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. He turned when he heard my footsteps. Everything okay? Everything is fine. Better than fine. I leaned against the railing beside him. Thank you. For everything. For showing up. For marrying me. For catching me. You caught yourself, he said. I just made sure you had a soft place to land. And now we start the rest of our lives. Whatever that looks like. Whatever you want it to look like. I looked out at the sea, at the sky, at the future stretching before me. I had been left at the altar. I had been humiliated, betrayed, and discarded. But I had refused to be a victim. And somewhere in the chaos of that day, I had found something I hadn't been looking for, a partner to protect her. Maybe, eventually, a love. It wasn't the wedding I had planned. It wasn't the life I had imagined. But as Adrian's hand found mine and the sun sank below the horizon, I realized it was exactly where I was meant to be. The trial of Julian Ashford and Chloe Vance was swift and brutal. The evidence was overwhelming, and both were convicted on multiple counts. Julian received 18 years in federal prison. Chloe received 12, and my father, finally forced to confront the truth about the woman he had brought into our family, filed for divorce from my stepmother within the month. The Vance family was fractured, but I had long since stopped needing them to be whole. Adrian and I stayed married. What began as a strategic alliance grew into something deeper, a partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, and a quiet, steady love that surprised us both. I continued my architectural work, now backed by Sterling Global's resources, building affordable housing developments across the country. Adrian continued to run his empire, but with a new lightness, a new warmth that his associates attributed to my influence. We never had a real wedding, we didn't need one. The ceremony on the beach, strange and chaotic as it had been, was enough. It was a symbol of something I had learned on that day, that the life you plan isn't always the life you get, and sometimes the detour is the destination. 10 years later, I stood on the same beach where I had been left at the altar, watching our daughter play in the surf. Her name was Eleanor, after Adrian's mother, and she was 9 years old, fearless and brilliant, with her father's eyes and my stubbornness. Adrian came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. What are you thinking about? The day we met, I said. The day you caught me. The day you caught yourself, he corrected. I just happened to be standing in the right place. Were you? Or did you plan the whole thing? He smiled against my hair. I'll never tell. I turned in his arms and kissed him, and I thought about the woman I had been. The one who had stood in that bridal suite, staring at her reflection, waiting for a groom who had never come. She had been terrified, humiliated, alone, but she had also been stronger than she knew. And the choice she had made, to walk down that aisle, to trust a stranger, to refuse to be a victim, had led her here. To this beach, this man, this life. It wasn't the fairy tale she had imagined. It was better.